All right, everyone, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Thursday, August 31st, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today here. So doing the video a little early here. So we do have the members live stream just after the bell at 4 o'clock. So I want to be able to get ready for that. Plus, right now, markets are basically in, a sleep mode. I believe last I checked, spiders I don't even think we're at 37 million shares here at 3 o'clock. So it is definitely holiday volume. We are into a little bit of resistance here. And again, we talked about this yesterday. I talked about it in the morning as well. Kind of coming into this pivot there. We're looking at the 4 hour and these pivots here too, right? So if we look at, it's a little bit of a zone, but you can kind of put it right there. We're right into that, and we've had a nice thrust. So market's kind of stalling out a little bit. I talked about Apple earlier today, and that actually held up okay. So if we look at the BBs, I did manage to get a short off on this, and it was like pulling teeth, but it did finally pull back. But this is kind of what happens when you get this light volume here. It's very hard, even on a day trade, just to get a short off. When you have that light volume there in that holiday period, and even on the long side too. I mean, you can see we haven't really gone anywhere. We are slipping a little bit though. In the afternoon here, there's still some gamma at 4,500. That's right around this area on the spiders, right in this area, about 449.25, somewhere in that zone. I can't rule it out. We could slip here. One thing that does catch my eye right away, and I'll just point this out, is you look at JPM. This is getting, hit pretty good. Down $2 there. Bearish inside bar on the daily, and this might be telling us a little bit of something. So look at Bank of America, same thing. Wells, Citi, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, all on the weaker side. I know the XLF is holding up better, but I don't like the XLF sometimes because 90% of it, well, not 90%, but I know the biggest part of it, I think 15% of it, the biggest holding is Berkshire, which is 50% Apple. So, it's a little bit skewed there, but the banks here are a little bit weak. They might be telling us something. I was one of the first. In fact, I don't think anybody was ahead of me on this. But back in December, I talked about the KRE. I said, there's a breakdown here, and there's something wrong with the market. And you can take a look here. KRE started to sell off in December, said the chart's broken. This is back when the spiders were holding up just fine. And, one of the things I said is, look, when financials all of a sudden just sell off for no reason, and they sell off hard, it usually means somebody in the know, smart money, knows something is coming around the corner. And maybe a little bit of a red flag here that financials are on the weaker side. Now, again, you still have some support for JPM right in this 143, 144 area, but, just not a strong chart, not really holding that breakout. Goldman, not able to get above those moving averages there. Wells, Bank of America, same kind of look there. That could, that's vulnerable. And Citigroup is a disaster. So financials here in rough shape, and they are kind of dragging the spiders down here as we get into the final hour. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if we got down to that 4,500 area by the end of the day. There is some gamma still sitting there, and 0DT delta is negative. The gamma is still positive, but at the very least, something to consider, something to look at moving forward. Again, one day won't make a trend or anything, but, again, we are coming into September. We've gone through the fastest rate hiking cycle, and we saw what happened with the banks earlier this year. So just keep an eye on it. But here we go. Markets, again, short term, the Qs, let's flip over to that. So we talked about that res level, right? So we went to the gap window. It's pulling back, nothing too out of the ordinary there. Tomorrow, I don't know, we're probably in the same range is my guess here, but looking at the Qs again, you hit the 380, right? So there's your gap window, 379.26. We just pierced it by a little bit today. Makes sense, right? Just, overshoot sometimes. And again, 380, those pivots right there. So that's your big level. And we're into that. I don't think we get through that tomorrow. I think we'll probably pull back at least into the weekend, or, maybe just stall out. Not saying we have to sell off sharply. And again, it's a holiday. We're in float mode. Again, look at the volume here, 27 million shares. That's nothing. So don't expect fireworks here unless we get some type of headlines coming out. Granted, there is the non-farm payroll number. So, and that's kind of the market is kind of at odds with the government, right? So the market wants a weak number, but the government, they're going into election year, the administration, they want to pump that number up. Hence why they keep pumping it up, and then it gets revised down. So I don't know what the number is going to look like, but that will move the market. Tomorrow morning, again, we are into resistance. So I would say risk short term is to the downside here. Even just for a pullback, if that's the case. But again, I don't expect a ton of volatility in the market until at least next week, when I think institutional traders come back in to the market here. But right now, again, 380 is your upside there on the Qs, and then again 452, 453 on the spiders there. Russell 2000 also coming back in again. Remember, lots of banks in the Russell, and that was more red than pretty much everything else except for the Dow, which we'll talk about in a second. We did get up to that 190 handle, didn't quite fill the gap, pulling back here. Let's not make too much out of it. There will be support at 186. That's where we broke out. So that's just short term. Who knows though? If this flags here, it could have another zigzag. But right now, pulling back in. The Dow here down 36 basis points. So that's the big loser on the day, rejecting this area. We talked about 350. That's, an engulfing reversal right now, unless we get a pop into the final hour, which is totally possible, right? Again, there's no volume, right? So it's very hard to get a sustained sell-off when the volume is this light. But either way, pretty sharp rejection there for the Dow. And again, we'll take a look at it. It should have some support still at 347 if we get down there tomorrow. But it did do some backing and filling here today. Semiconductors, kind of a mixed bag. There was some down, was some up. AMD's down. Broadcom, this looks like panic buying almost here on Avgo. Maybe some end of the month window dressing. We talked about that as well. That's up 3%. Just give Avgo a free 3%. Why not? SMH, though, still below this pivot. So 156.59. We did peak above it. Got up to 157.16, but we're right at that level there. Again, we'll watch that on a closing basis. If we do that, then we can go up to the gap fill around the 160 handle. But interesting to see it struggle still with that red bar there. So I guess it's a bit of a laggard, and we'll leave it at that. IGV, I was joking about this earlier, saying this is the new hype sector. It had that breakdown, a few weeks ago, and usually that's a pretty good signal there. But those earnings really saved it. We talked about Intuit, that reported a week or two ago, and then CRM, big move up today on earnings, and then CrowdStrike, same thing, up 9%. So IGV getting it's like the new hype sector here. But yeah, cloud holding up well through that gap. Next big level is at 364.52, and then of course the weekly level, which is still at 367.22. So IGV still strong here. It's getting helped out by those earnings. But yeah, nice recovery there for cloud. We can get rid of this trend line. That doesn't matter anymore. But again, nice bid there for IGV. Transports, again, another weak sign here. So kind of looks a lot like the JPM chart. We had the big up move and then just faded the whole thing. And now just kind of, this was pivotal today. We needed to get above that 20 and back above that 50, and we're back below both of them, or we're both back below the 50 rather. So again, sideways to up, more of a bear flag look than anything on the transports. That's weak. If we break through that, you'll have a little bit of support at 15,250, but I think 15,000 is your bigger level because we've now consolidated above this. But transports here trying to hang on. They are down almost 1% on the day, so just keep that in mind. All right, interest rates here. So let's flip over. There we go. So there's the dollar index, which is very strong right now. Interest rates 2-year pulling back a little bit. We did get the PCE numbers this morning. Everything came pretty much in line with expectations. Same thing with jobless claims. The real number, the market mover tomorrow, will be the jobless or the NFP number. But 2-year pulling back a little bit. Again, wouldn't rule out a little bit more backing and filling here in 2s, 5s, 10s, and 30s. But again, I think the downside in yields is capped. But in any case, they are pulling back off those key levels, and that can help out the market here. Interestingly enough, though, the dollar is nicely green on the day, so maybe that's telling us something there. But in any case, yields pulling back and continuing to do some backing and filling. XHB is still very strong. So again, closing above that 82.75 looks like it's going to do that today. So that is a sign of strength. Still some resistance at 84, but you just can't take these home builders down. ITB still has resistance here at 86.75 to 87. But again, nice little bounce there off the lows, and that is still continuing to trend higher until proven otherwise. VNQ backing off a little bit. That's an outside move down. So again, we went into that resistance level. We said they'd probably back off there into the 83 handle, and that's what we did. So we backed off here. If we put in a higher low, then you can go up and test 84. But until that happens, we do have a potential lower high set up there, and you may need to come down and test these levels again. XLF, we already touched down a little bit. Again, I don't think this tells the full story of the day. Still down 14 cents, still outside move down, engulfing reversal there. But again, really the story for me is JPM, Bank of America. These charts are weak, and I think they're talking to us like, don't ignore the financials when they sell off, especially with no news. I haven't heard any real news, anything concrete anyway. So just be aware of that. But in any case, financials on the weaker side. KRE here, that's still managing to be green, so regional's holding up okay. It's more of the big banks here today. Still possible bear pattern there on the daily. Same thing with KBE, although this is a little bit firmer. I remember getting back above that 50 the other day, and it's trying to hold that area. But again, these charts are not the greatest. Just be aware of that. Broker dealers even pulling back down 0.75%. Our trend line's holding up there. That can still get to 510 if it puts in a higher low, though. Can't rule that out at all. Okay, let's get over to crude here. So crude making a little bit of a move, up 2.25. This is a little premature. I thought we would have had to consolidate more. Now, again, we haven't broken out yet, but I'd say if you get a weekly, again, I've said this multiple times, if you get a weekly close above 83.53, I don't think there's anything that can stop crude from going into the low 90s that I see here. That's a big deal to me. Doesn't mean it'll go there right away in a straight line, but that's a big sign of strength if it can do that tomorrow. So watch that Friday close tomorrow. That'll be a big deal. But yeah, nice pop there, up 2.25. I didn't think it was going to do this today. I thought we would kind of hang out a little bit. I think it probably needs to pull back here. You did go up 6 days in a row pretty much into this level again. So we might need to do a little bit more backing and filling. That would be my preference, but strong day. It's holding up nicely, up 2.25. XLE flat. So again, not really confirming the move, but again, no problems, right? Look at the weekly. That's perfect, right? That's a perfect pattern there. I don't have any issues with that. XOP, you can look at the same thing. A lot of trend line convergence there. But as soon as you get a weekly close above 150.32, there's nothing stopping that. And then OIH here, red on the day, but that still wants to get to that monthly 100 moving average, right around that 370 handle. So that's what I'm looking for there. But again, energy holding up okay. Nat gas here was all over the map, up, down on inventories. Ultimately, just an inside day. Again, still has to get through this pivot here. Again, you can see we basically tested it today, 286.5, almost exactly. Once it gets through that, it's back up to 3. And then, if you get through 3, you can really start to squeeze. But I don't think we're quite there yet, although it may be turning the corner here as we get into that seasonal period. Dollar index, as we've talked about, holding up. So I said, look, this is just a pullback here. This has plenty of room for a higher low. It held this area here, these pivots. Still could get down to 102.50. Wouldn't rule that out. Maybe even 102. But right now, 1, 2, 3 pullback and a pop. So dollar remains resilient here, and it's showing relative strength. Again, you tested last week's low. You're off of that. We close flat tomorrow, for instance. Then there's nothing wrong. I mean, that's just an inside candle on the weekly, right? So again, dollar may do a little bit more pulling back, backing and filling, but I don't see any problems. And again, we've gotten above some major weekly resistance levels here. So definitely respect the DXY here. And it's going up with yields going down. That means risk off. So just be aware of that. Even though the market's going up, dollar could be telling us something there. Anyways, here, gold pulling back ever so slightly. So again, we talked about 1975 area, little 1 day pullback. It's down $5. Let's not make much out of it. If it flags here, it can go up to 2,000, but that's really all I have for it at the moment. If we do roll over, then you'll have 1900, and then again down to 1830 area. Silver pulling back just a little bit here. That probably wants to go test that gap and we'll see what it does there. But again, that's had a nice last week or two, and it's holding up okay. Platinum here down fractionally, nothing crazy here, pulling back a little bit. We'll see how that reacts at 960. Palladium not doing a whole lot there, and then copper here, a little inside hammer, nothing terrible there. That can still flag and possibly get up to 390 in the short term, but again, just hanging in there. Lastly, Bitcoin faded that whole move, right? So this is why I said the last 2 days, like, I don't care. I don't trust it anymore. If it wants to do what it wants to do, and it can do it without me. So you have a beautiful, picture perfect weekly pattern that failed. And then you had a pretty nice daily bear pattern that started to fail, and then we came right back down. So I have no interest in trading this chop. We'll let it do what it wants to do. You know, if we go down to 21.5 in a straight line, I would be all over that. But that's really all I would be interested in as far as Bitcoin is concerned at this point. Not interested in shorting it. The pattern's too tough here, and buying it again. There's nothing to say that on the weekly here, you don't just put in a weekly bearish in sidebar. So again, right now, I'm not in love with it. Pretty good fade there, rejecting the 220. It's trying to hold on right now, but I have no clear edge on it. So there's no reason for me to even get involved here. So anyways, let's get back over to the spiders. Again, it's about 319. So market's closing in about 40 minutes. And it looks like we're going to hold up into the end of the day. I'm just taking a look. Yeah, JPM still at the lows of the day. XLF just coming off the lows of the day, not by much though. And tech kind of hanging in there, right? Broadcom still getting a panic bid, it looks like. Apple, Apple is very strange here. That may want to get up to this gap here. So, that showed some relative strength here, getting above that Bollinger Band, pointing downward, gapping up too. So again, sometimes that's the way it goes with the holiday period. You don't get those short levels to work out, although I did manage to squeeze some out of it by the middle of the day here, but it is starting to float up. But in any case, tech hanging in there okay. Still think 380 on the QQQ is a big level. We'll watch that, and then of course the gap fill and this trend line here that could get back tested. But those are the levels we're watching. Same thing there with the spiders. That gap window still remains to be resistance until proven otherwise. But again, watch those banks, especially as we get into the month of September, month of October. Those are the risk months. We've got to be careful there. Anyways, guys, gonna wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.